I got hit in the face by him, dragged across the floor, left for dead. It fractured my eye socket. I didn't know what else to do but ring my mum, so my mum came to Spain to save my life. I was on a drip for 3 days.
Hello and welcome to the Leading Communities podcast, brought to you by Aspire for You CIC and produced by That's All Media CIC. I'm Kit Chawande and I'll be your host. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Communities podcast. So as we've already said, this series is about talking to young people, thinking about engagement, thinking about what's going on in their communities. So today I'm glad to be joined by some guys that have actually ended up working for us, and they're going to be sharing Birmingham and West Midlands perspectives. So in front of me we've got Georgia.
Hello.
Cool. And then to my left we've got Kristin.
Hi.
Okay, you guys take it away in any order, but take us through the journey of where you're at and how did we come across you?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
So I was doing a job in Coventry, leafleting. I was thinking, what am I doing with my life? And the woman I was actually working with asked, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I wanted to be a presenter. And then next thing you know, a TV crew approached me in Coventry, and it happened to be you guys. And I did a short interview and asked, where do you see yourself and what do you want to do with your life? I said, that's funny because I was just having this conversation and I actually want to be a presenter. And then I spoke to you guys after and you said that you had some opportunities for me. So then I came into the office, met yourself, and then we went from there. I started doing street interviews, I did podcasts, helped out with the events. And then ever since then, this was only, I think it was probably the start of the year, wasn't it? So ever since then, I've been manifesting, being a presenter, and then loads of crazy things have happened for me since then.
So what kind of things are you, like, we're like 8 months into the year.
Yeah.
So what's happening for the next 4 months that you think?
So I've just recently done interviewing for the biggest festival in Birmingham, which was Made Festival. It was actually in Digbeth. I didn't even know I wanted to be a presenter till I met you guys, really. And then I've just been working towards that, obviously going out doing street interviews with you, doing some content creation with other people. I've also been asked by the Bull Ring to do some things with them.
Amazing.
So it's hard balancing work and being a creative because obviously you've got to work to pay the bills, but then obviously you're trying to follow your dreams, so you're just trying to fit everything in.
But it sounds like you're also finding small links, like you're putting yourself out there and that opens the next.
I feel like everything's happened for a reason and I've just been like building up, but you guys were the first one, so it's been good.
So we're going to come on to that one because I think that there's probably 3 or 4 things in there that is just good for people to kind of know.
Yeah.
Cool. And then yourself, Kristin, how did we
So
cross paths?
Beth messaged me the other day, and
you might have to do like the backstory of
how I met Beth.
No, not
who
even
Beth?
like how did Beth get involved with us?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think she was in Warsaw or something. Someone approached her, I think.
It might have been me actually.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was Beth,
So Beth approached you,
And then she was just, she's like, can you just come with me one day to this work thing? And I'm like, yeah, sure, where is it? And I'm like, she's like, Warsaw. So I went all the way to Warsaw with her. And then she just brought me along one day. I was sat there and I kind of got involved. And then you guys gave me a t-shirt and here I am.
Changing lives kind of thing. So, and in that journey, I think for all of you, like you've seen a lot of what we do and you've kind of seen how we approach and look at things. What was kind of your journey before that? Like from school to say about now, what were your guys' experiences and what do you think we do that was of interest? Like, you know what I mean? I guess you meet people all the time, but what made you want to stay or find out?
I think for me, I went to school, did well in school, and then it got to secondary school and I got a bit lost, didn't really know what I was meant to be doing. And I went to study media in college because I did well in school with it. And then I got to college and I just don't think there was enough support. I hardly went to lessons, but I knew that was something that I wanted to do in the media industry. After college, I completely left that and started working in restaurants and bars. And now, almost 5 years later, I've come back to it. But the thing that you support and offer is actually more hands-on experience, because I didn't get that. I didn't get excited at college, so I didn't want to pursue it because I just didn't like it.
What was missing in that excitement? What was the college structure that didn't feel exciting?
I just felt like I was still at school, and obviously I was like more of an adult at that point. The teachers didn't get me because at that point I didn't really get myself, and I didn't really have, as a girl at that point, I didn't have support. All my teachers were males, so they're trying to like support someone, and you know, I was really angry at the time just with life and with college. I didn't go, didn't want to be there. And I feel like if I had some people like you who actually came into the college, who don't judge you for who you are, but can see where you need help, because I think that's what was lacking in college, then maybe I would have found my passion earlier on in life, and I would have been able to, I probably would have been further on in my career if I had have focused at college.
Okay, that's an interesting one. So really, the environment matters, but also the types of people in that environment.
Yeah, because it was all like middle-aged men, no one that could like really understand what's going on in my life, and no one that I would really want to talk to about that either.
Okay.
So
and I suppose them getting culture is that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And yourself, what was that kind of school education journey?
So my whole school education journey was hell, literal hell. If I genuinely am surprised I'm still here, to be honest, because of how bullied I was. Obviously, it didn't help that I've moved school like 4 times. So my first school was in Chelsea Corbett, Kidderminster. It was a lovely school. Obviously, there was like little childish bullying here and there, but you know, it's kids. And then that's when I moved to the Priory in Year 9, because my last school ended in Year 8. The moment I walked through those doors, I didn't feel welcomed at all. Like, I was bullied for being white with red hair and Brazilian. You know, it got so bad to the point where I was pushed down the stairs, locked in like closets, punched, kicked. And then I remember I was surrounded by a group of boys, and they started like, you know, sexually harassing me and stuff like that. And it's just, I got no help from the teachers, not even the females. There was no one there for me. I made like 2 friends at the time, but they were quite shy and they didn't really help me out. So, you know, I just left. And then
just a small part of that journey where you reached, where did you reach out to, and which doors opened and which ones didn't?
None. There was like none open and none closed. I just said to my mum, I need to find a new school, like one that's better for me. And then I just moved to St George's. So I think I waited, I was homeschooled for the rest of Year 9, and in Year 10 I moved to St George's. I had like a nice friend group. It was like 5 of us, but the thing is, it wasn't so much bullying there, it was just the fact it was a very like weak school for me, because my first school, we were 2 years ahead of the normal So when I was in Year 10, I was learning stuff that I learned in Year 8 kind of thing. So it was just like, I'm just going to go back to homeschooling because there's just no point really. And at that point, I was so mentally destroyed. I was terrified of people. I'd stayed at home for like 2 years. And obviously I was in the year group where the GCSEs...
This is before COVID.
Yeah, so when I was meant to do my GCSEs, this was the group, I was in the year group where the GCSE students, like they did, predicted grades. So at that time, then I found out while I was 2 years at home, literally terrified of people, didn't go outside, not even just because of COVID, I just generally was terrified of people, especially to people my age. I figured out I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I've always been like obsessed with like aircraft, stuff like that, and like mechanical stuff, because my dad's a pilot. He always I always helped him fix cars, stuff like that, and my mum was cabin crew as well. So I was like, I want to be an aerospace engineer, but these predicted grades aren't good enough. And then I tried to get apprenticeships here and there because I didn't have my A-levels. I can't go to university. I can do open university, it's a very long and difficult process. I remember I was in Brazil and I saw like this advertisement come up for show as cabin crew, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to wait till my birthday, and on my birthday I'm going to apply.
Me,
18th,
birthday 18th.
birthday.
And you're 19 now.
Yeah. So, you know, I applied on the night at like midnight of my birthday, and then got through the first few stages on my own. I'm like, I'm not going to ask for my mum's help. I want to do something on my own for once. And I actually got the job. And I was just like, wow, what? I've got no experience. Like I did like a couple of months in retail before that. Yeah, so then I got the job and it was London City Airport. So it's like 2 hours, 50 minutes away and it's a long journey there and back and it was short haul as well. So I did that for 6 months.
That was like your first proper job?
Yeah, first proper
That's
job.
a good first proper job.
I know.
Beats mine in a bar.
Well, I did like TK Maxx and Clark,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, you know, it's not like a career kind of thing. Unfortunately, bullying follows you throughout life.
Oh, God.
So I remember I was on a 5 a.m. flight. I was in Amsterdam. I was getting my galley ready in the back.
You might have to explain to like
what
is this world?
So a galley is where you prepare the drinks, food. It's a very small aircraft. It's an Embraer 190, 98 passengers. Very, very small aircraft, like a lot smaller than the ones you have in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So it was like 5 a.m. I was super tired, you know, as you are. It was like a first flight of the day. And I was just sat on like the corner of my seat, trying to get my gilet out. Because, you know, like when you do food service, you have to wear like a gilet, different uniform you have to wear. You know, just getting that hand cream because it gets very dry up there. You know, just stuff you need. Yeah. And I hear like screaming coming up the aisle. And it was my manager, because there's just 2 crew on board, you, yourself, and your manager.
Okay.
He comes screaming in my face like, "What are you doing?" Sat down, swearing at me, screaming at me. He grabs my arm, pulls me up and starts screaming in my face. And he grabbed me so hard that my hand was bruised. Like my arm was actually bruised. And I was like, so I wasn't like fragile at the time, but I was at the same time, because I like a month prior, I had dealt with an emergency situation. So much so, like the woman, she came up to me, she was like, "I've got heart pain," and then she just fell on the floor. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this woman is dead. So then I had to start like CPR, use the defibrillator. She was actually dead for a few minutes, and I was like the main responder, because she was the one who came up to me. As an 18-year-old who had to, you know, who's in the mind was like, oh my gosh, I need to save this person. So I hope someone's life was in my hands. Luckily, she was all right, but that was like a very mentally draining thing.
Yeah.
And then that happened with like the manager.
Did she survive?
Yeah, she
Well
survived.
done.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. That's good. And I'm thinking you haven't said if she's okay.
I was like, oh, I didn't even.
I know, she's fine. She's fine. Yeah. So before that, I found out why he attacked me the way he did, the manager. So when I was a supernumerary, like a supernumerary is when you are the extra crew on board, trained during the first flight. So I think you have like about 6 of them, and you have to be signed off to say what you did right, what you did wrong, and then once you've done that 6 flights, you're fine to do it on your own.
Okay.
So while I was a supernumerary, he was the manager, and then there was like another crew on board. And then the other crew member on board was like, "Be careful of him, he's a nasty piece of work." And I'm like, right, okay. So this crew member said to me, "Take your trolley up to the front so you can like put the waste out." So I was carrying my trolley midway through the flight, backwards, so I couldn't see what was behind me. I thought, like, you know, the aisle is clear. It's like a safety thing. The aisle has to be clear. You can't leave anything in the aisle, like a big trolley. Like these trolleys are heavy, bulky. One turbulence and it goes flying and smash through the aircraft kind of thing. So big thing. So I was walking backwards and I smacked my back against this trolley and my back was bruised. The manager left the trolley in the middle of the aisle. And as a supernumerary, and someone who just joined, I was scared to say something because, you know, he's like big boss manager who's been there for 30 years, the first manager of the company, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't say anything. And he saw what happened and he looked at me like, "Don't you dare say anything." So I said to like my other crew members after the flight, like my friends, I was like, you know, so-and-so's happened. And obviously word got out. He's known that I've told everyone. So I think on that flight where he hurt me, like, on the, you know, when he grabbed my hand, he was like, he was trying to be intimidating, scaring me.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like freaked out at this point. So I like went to the flight deck, told the pilot and the first officer what happened. They were like, what? They didn't, kind of like they didn't believe me. So I got offloaded and then the flight was cancelled. So, and then the blame went to me, like I've just wasted the company like £1 million, blah, blah, blah.
For speaking up.
Apparently I wasn't allowed to fly back with the crew. So the 3 of them, pilot, first officer and the manager who sorted me, went back to London City and just left me there in Amsterdam.
So how did you get home?
Oh, it's horrible, right? So I was there for like a full-on 5 hours. Like communication was absolute
Yeah.
awful. Like, you know, just get on this flight. Actually, no, that flight's been blah, 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 blah. So like, around me was like passengers who were meant to get on that flight back to London City, or like angry. I was trying not to like show my uniform because like they'll see like answering me questions.
Gosh.
And I just like, I just want to go home. And I finally got a call like 5 hours, 6 hours later saying, you're on a flight back to Heathrow. I'm like, great, can I go home? Because Heathrow is a lot closer to me. It's like 1.5 hours. And then they were like, no, you have to go from Heathrow to London City.
Okay.
And I'm like, are you joking?
And is that to just finish sign off on that?
Yeah, to debrief.
Okay.
And I'm like, what do you mean like debrief? Like everyone just left me here behind. And they were like, no, it's just, we have to make sure you're okay. I'm like, what do you mean to make sure you're okay? You didn't let me go on the flight home. If anything, leave the manager behind. He's like 50 years old. I'm 18, vulnerable, whatever. And he goes, yeah, well, I don't care. You have to take a taxi from Heathrow to London City. And that taxi's like 1.5 hours. The flight back was about 45 an hour. So I was like so upset at this point, especially what I've been through in my past. I just wanted to go home, have a hug from my mum, and just go home. And they didn't let me do that. So when I finally got to London City, I said to my mum, can you call me? I didn't say, what? I said to my mum, can you come pick me up? She was like, yeah, I'm on the way. So my mum had to waste petrol, go back and forth. Instead of just come pick me up, they was like, no, don't care.
With that situation, is that like, when did you then finish working with them?
No, October, November, I want to say.
Did you carry on for a bit? Okay,
I wasn't allowed to.
Interesting.
Because, so they said I'd have to still carry on working with him. And I was like, are you joking? And like, they were like, no, you still have to work with him. And says, oh, but he's Italian, he has a temper. Excuse me, I'm a quarter Italian. Am I just going to go abusing people? Absolutely not.
So that kind of links to two parts really, which is, one is about what's the female experience in, different settings, which we'll definitely come on to. But then the other one is probably about bullying and how disruptive it is to people and their life experience. What's your take on bullying? Like, what do you think people really understand what it does to people and its long-term lasting effects?
Unless it's happened to them, they won't know. And some people are very lucky in life to not know what it's like. Unfortunately, bullying follows you until you're an adult, because even adults can be bullied still. Sometimes they do it like on purpose, sometimes they don't, and sometimes just the way they've been brought up and they're nasty as they are. But in a way, yes, it's really affected me mentally, but it's made me a better person. Like, I'm not scared of people anymore. I know how to deal with people now, and I've actually had anger issues happening to me since then. It's affected me, and the GPs don't help at all. They say, oh yeah, you can go to this, that, and whatever, free, but it doesn't help. You need intensive.
Many people out there will basically believe that you go to the NHS, you go to the doctor, and they'll refer you. Maybe you have to be on a bit of a waiting list, but everything works eventually. What's your actual lived experience of mental health support for bullying?
So when I first went there was when I was in school. Actually, my mum took me because she couldn't stand me anymore, because all I did was cry. And I didn't want to go to school. I was always late. My attendance was horrible.
What age?
14, 15. They didn't do anything. All they did was put it on my file. And as throughout the year, so the ages are from 14 to 18, that has been on my medical file of me, mentally not okay, on fluoxetine now, which is antidepressants. Just really negative stuff on my medical file, and they didn't do anything about it. And I had to go to such extreme lengths and to finally put me on fluoxetine at the age of 18. They didn't do it before that. So and that's really affected my jobs as well, because it was an absolute hassle to get the job with BA through the medicals. And I wanted to join the army for RAF engineering. No, because of my medical file. So they didn't do anything. Yeah, they said, oh yeah, a few months, you can go to therapy. It's not even therapy, what's it called? Something before actual therapy. It's quite weak therapy, let's put it this way. And I had to wait months and months. They lost me in the system. So then I had to go through the whole thing again. And I still haven't had it.
When did you hear that they lost you in the system?
6 months after they said that I was going to get it. And then I was like, where's my appointment?
Do you remember which year?
No, because I've been trying to get it the whole time. And obviously, as my auntie's a doctor in Brazil, my auntie helped me find a therapist for cheaper. So I did it there, and I did it over Zoom as well. Even though Portuguese is my first learnt language,
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Like there are some like really medical termed words that I just can't, understand, and it's just different, especially as like not face to face as well. And here it's like £350 for actual therapy.
Is that what you were getting quoted?
Yeah. Nowhere cheaper.
And how much was it in Brazil?
£25.
Okay.
Well, converted.
Interesting. That first journey of getting school counselling, did you experience school counselling?
No.
No, but you experienced any NHS mental health support? Never, just medication. So then your family had to find an alternative.
Yeah.
And were you also getting this support through COVID?
No.
Okay, so through COVID, no mental health support?
No.
So only medication?
Yeah.
And till today, you're on some waiting list somewhere?
Yeah, but forget it. I'm fine now. I mean, I'm not fine, but I know how to deal with it.
You've just had enough.
I've had enough.
It's made you disengage.
Goodbye. I'm not having any more on my medical record.
And how does that affect trust with statutory services? How does that affect trust with NHS or any help?
So my mum actually works for the NHS, and she's like, thing is, they're great at like, treating the cause, but what they don't help with is before the cause. They don't treat it. They just say, oh, you've got this, bye. Like they don't actually look into it. So. But
trust-wise, what's your perception when it comes to mental health support? I don't trust them. Interesting. Yeah. And then does that affect, or what's your perceptions of trust of other services, even if they're not NHS? So when it comes to whether we say policing, I don't know, social services, education system.
Social services, bad. Police, well, they're all right. Ambulance is good. Police is all right, I suppose. Not the best either. Are
these views because you've got experience with them, or are these views because
I've got experience?
So somehow over time it's been sequential that place let me down, that one let me down. Okay. And obviously this started with bullying, and we've gone into an interesting space. But I just wanted to hear the full story out, because
definitely.
I think one of the big things is people don't. When I say people, some of the people that I work with in the industries, we're trying to really educate that something that happened, say, 2014 has a consequence in 2024. And that's why I wanted to hear the story out, to help people just see that journey. So from your perspective, experiences of bullying or other kind of issues, what was the journey with education, and what was stimulating your disengagement?
I've been bullied from a young age. I'm a redhead naturally as well. And this is obviously from people in school, boys, girls, ever since I can remember. That made me look at myself bad through my whole of my life, even down to the other day I went out. I was on my own. I went to a club in Digbeth. I got called Ginger Nut by... I know it brought back all these emotions that I haven't felt for ages. When I was a kid, bullying, no one really talked about it or dealt with it. And now like all these mental health things have came out since COVID. But when I was in school and when I was a kid, no one really cared. Like nothing was spoke about. So anyway, I've gone to the club. I got you have to walk past a dog handler to get sniffed out for drugs. Obviously, I didn't have any drugs on me. She made me walk past her 3 times. The dog didn't do nothing. She's like, "Come back. You're getting sniffed out again." And I'm like, my best friend's DJ sets in like 5 minutes. Like, I promise you, I haven't like nothing. Do it again. Do it again. She went, "Oi, Ginger Nut, get back here now. You're getting
professional." So it wasn't even like a drunk.
No, it was the dog handler who.
Like security.
Yeah.
Wow.
She, "Oi, Ginger Nut, get back here. Don't think you're getting away with anything." And I'm like, oh my God, like, and I haven't experienced bullying in years now, and to actually deal with it in the outside world. And I was a woman on my own. There was no one about. And then the other security guard was a woman, and they like basically teamed up on me. Like I said to this boy in the queue, "Oh, she's been a job's worth, isn't she?" Like she just made me do that for no reason. And then she absolutely flipped the lid at me, kicked off, and said, "Just get out." So I'm there like,
what's going on?
And I felt I couldn't believe it.
And what's that relation then with, like, say, education? Like when you're at school, what kind of things did that bullying experience disrupt?
It disrupted everything. My home life, my education, me learning. I was in my head about myself. It caused a lot of depression and anxiety from probably like the age of like 8, as young as that, and it caused me a lot of stress. And that's why I think in my education I've not really excelled as much as I could have. I was meant to get A's in secondary school, but I lost my way a bit there.
And it's underrated. I mean, so then the natural part is some people would then say, where did you go for help, or did you go for help?
I just went to my mum and my nan, and they helped me as much as they could. My mum's a single mum, worked for the NHS. She was running 3 hospitals at the time. So obviously there's only so much I could say to her, because she's got all the stress behind her of looking after thousands of people. So at that point, I didn't want to go and stress her out even more, because I wanted her to worry about the sick people that were, she was looking after, over myself, which I sort of regret now, not telling her as much as I could have, because it could have been different for me.
And school-wise, there was no one?
So school-wise, I got labelled as the naughty kid, but really I just didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I had anger management, I had therapy at school.
What was that like, and how was it put together? How did they even first offer it?
Because I was just kicking off at school, because I just didn't understand, and I always got picked on by teachers. I thought I was getting picked on by everyone, which I was, and even now that it's followed me, because I feel like when people are being nice to me, they're not actually being nice to me, and I think that there's some
overthinking.
Yeah, and I think they're doing that for a different reason. But really, it's took me the last year or so, I've actually realised there's nice people in the world, and I've changed completely as a person. And I've grown with it. But even in college, I was getting anger management. I know it sounds crazy, really? But because I was doing media studies, I was crying my eyes out most days. I was in a bad place. I hardly went to school. I was smoking weed every day. I was going out, hanging with the wrong people. And then one day I had to go to college, and this woman from the BBC, so she had red hair, and she was quite old, and I don't think she was like a news reporter. Didn't even want to go into this lecture. And then she said, oh, okay, so we're going to pick on someone out the crowd, and you're going to answer all these questions. And who did she pick? She picked me. So I'm like, I didn't want to be there. And I was like, I don't want to speak to you. And then she turned around and said, wow, you're obviously in the wrong career, so you need to sort out your life. Something brutal like that. So I went out of the lecture, and I've just started crying my eyes out. Even my form tutors came up to me like, that was awful, are you okay? I said, no, I've had enough. I got bullied by the BBC, basically.
That's the title for this episode.
Bullied by BBC.
All right,
it was awful. I was like 15, and you don't need that.
So in that kind of story, there was you said that they first offered you therapy. What was in those sessions? Was it called therapy, and what did they?
I think it was, yeah. Okay. Anger management and therapy, but.
And who was it a professional, or was it like
no? It was a professional.
A mentor. Okay.
It was a mentor, and she was a professional.
Okay.
But all I can remember, because this was probably like nearly 10 years ago now, I don't know if it's because I wasn't in the right mindset and I just hated everyone at the time, but I didn't relate to the person. Yeah. So.
What would have helped relatability? People
that's gone through things that you've gone through. So I'm speaking to like middle-aged people that are just, living a normal life. They're not actually speaking back about what they've gone through, so you can understand that you can relate to a person. It's just asking questions. Why do you feel like this? How do you think you could deal with it? Who can you go to? And what would you do in this situation? But really, I didn't listen to any of that, because it weren't relating to me at all.
And then at college, did you stop any therapy after that school offered it? Nobody offered any continuity?
I got anger management in college as well, as you can tell.
Different place?
No, the same place, Bourneville College.
Okay, is what I mean is, so you'd had it in school?
Yeah.
But it wasn't, how long was that for?
I can't remember.
Okay. And then when you moved to a new place, you had to do another version with a whole different professional.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that one?
The same, really. We didn't really talk about anything. We just had a chat.
Okay.
And because I was in a bad place at college as well, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I'd be fighting, doing things like that, but I just didn't know where to turn. So that's why I didn't go into education after college, because there was nothing there for me, I believed at the time.
And you know the college one, and I'm saying it just because I want to be very careful before I say some of the next thing. Do you know if that person was a college counsellor, therapist? Do you know who they were, the person that you were talking to?
I think he was a counsellor.
Okay. They didn't really explain who?
I can't really remember because it was that long ago. I just remember not caring about what anyone was saying to me about anything.
Was that a relatability thing there?
I think it was, but at the time I just didn't know.
You were too far gone.
Too far gone.
For that to work.
And with my course as well, I think why I started to get angry with everything is because I didn't have the extra support there, and I didn't know who to turn to, and I just didn't know. And because the course was, I thought it was going to be like exciting, there was like no hands-on things to do, so I lost interest and lost love for something that I thought I would go into. Because
you're touching on something that, like, learning needs to be very practical is a lot of what I'm learning from you guys, but also it sounds like so this is why I asked certain questions, and this is why I wanted to hear everything out. I think you guys have shown for me the overwhelming clarity that the length of time that the issue has been going on is not always proportionate to the support that's offered. So on paper, all of you had some form of therapy, but actually, was it long enough? Was it the right quality? Was it the right timing? And then was it sustained? So in your case, you found something in a mother tongue, but actually, arguably, English has become your first language, even though it's your second language. So the quality of the intervention actually had to be not only in English, maybe more face-to-face, etc. And in your case, it was like, you guys need to offer me the right mental health support to also carry some of the backlog from maybe weeks, months, maybe even years before.
And when I was in school, so that was 10 years ago, so from the age of like 4 to 15, I think it is, mental health wasn't even a thing. I think that's why I was so confused with why I was feeling this way, because I didn't actually know what my feelings were. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I had anxiety. Only after COVID, and it's all become a massive thing. Thank God it's happened, even though it's a bit late for me. If I had the support people were getting now when I was in school, things might have been different.
You guys met, I'm gonna go there just because I'm learning the pattern. So everyone's mentioned some form of single parenthood. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Cool. So how much does that matter for a girl growing up?
A lot.
Go on.
Especially if it's your dad, I guess, that's the one that's gone.
Okay.
Do you feel like,
yeah, definitely.
Because of that, so my dad left when I was 2 years old. I used to live in Stourbridge, that's why then I moved to Harrowing. So I think the fact that I kind of grew up without a father, I mean, he still saw him, you know, now and then.
He's around, but not around.
Yeah, same with me.
He exists,
but he doesn't know how to, you know, have a daughter kind of thing. So it was very hard. And then as I went through 2 relationships, I got into the relationship in 2020, end of 2020, so during COVID. So he was like my rock, my everything, like I just want to be with him all the time. I can't wait to see you. Yeah, at the time. And then and then he broke up. We broke up last year, like a year from now, back then. And I was so destroyed. Like I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to be loved again. I need this, I need that, I need him. And so much so, I went 6 months every single day, crying my eyes out, wanting him back. I got anorexic because I couldn't eat. The smell of food made me sick. The sight of food made me even more sick, and I just didn't eat. Just cried, didn't eat, was just wanting to end my life, basically. And then a few months after, I think it was last November, I met this other guy, you know, great guy. He asked me to be his girlfriend. So we just both came up with like long relationships. It was fine. We talked great. And then, you know, a week after he asked me to be his girlfriend, I was like, look, I just don't feel the spark. I don't think either of us are ready for a relationship. And that was like, fair enough. You know, obviously I was still upset, but I wasn't as bad as the last relationship. And I'm like, gosh, I've gotten a lot better since then. And
You're like, I've gone from -27 to -23. And is that like, so where does the dad issue relate to that?
Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
So then my dad felt bad for me. He was like, right, come to Dubai. So in my view, I was very much verbally abused, mentally abused by my dad. I was there for like 2 days. And then he got into this massive argument and saying horrible things about my mum, about me, about like the fact I couldn't stay in a relationship and it was my fault. I was the reason why my mum and dad didn't stay together because I was meant to be a peace baby. They broke up. Saying like I can't stay in a job for so long. I'm a failure. I'm never going to be able to succeed anything in life. You know, just like a horrible monster.
The worst things you don't want to hear. For sure.
And I'm just like, this is supposed to be my dad. You know, he just does. And like the fact I was like in pain as well, and like I was dealing with girl problems. He didn't know how to deal with it. He just went absolutely like horrible person. Like, you're not my dad. I don't know who you are. Please. And he sent me back to England. And then I was just like, that's when all of my emotions went, and I changed into a different person. Like, you know, I got tattoos, I got my piercings. Even I said I was never get piercings. I got piercings. I went through. I did like a little bit of balloons, you know, on holiday with my friends, and I was a bit out of control. I went out every night.
Is that what some people say? Is that a rebellion? Is that trauma?
It's trauma, rebellion. I've had enough kind of attitude. So because of what I went through with my dad, and because of how I acted in my relationships, because of my dad, because he wasn't there, I didn't know how to deal with male attention, which is why we kind of broke up, because I was a very beggy, needy, like, I need you, I can't breathe without you kind of person, because I never had male attention in my life. And then it just, because of how he left it affects that. It's affected my whole life kind of thing. Yeah. And the social services thing, because he called it on my mom because of I was homeschooled, because he said he couldn't care that I was being bullied. Didn't give a damn. He called the social services on my mom because I wasn't going to school and because I was home studying. And I wanted to be a vet at the time. So because social services came to my house and they found out I was doing this job experience at the local vet, they said, you're not allowed to do that. They took me off the job experience. So I was absolutely in tears while they were there, and they were like, why aren't you at school? Why aren't you this? Go to Liso's, go to
so and so place.
I wouldn't go to hell. I'd go to Liso's. That place is a stabbing playground. Are you joking? No. So yeah.
So fundamentally, all of this backstory. So we spoke about like the mental health support. All of that backstory can arguably be rooted in the people that made us. Like, you know. And what's your kind of thoughts on the single parent?
Basically the same as you. So my dad was always there, but as I got older, I realised what happened between him and my mum, and it really spun my head, and I couldn't understand why he would do such a thing, cheating my mum while she was pregnant with me. So I'm like, okay, so if you love me, why didn't you think about that then? So then I cut him off, and then I got in a relationship when I was 15, ended awful, but that was my first love. So I just looked at love like horrible. 2 years later, I got with an older boy. I was in a really abusive relationship for a year. He made me think that my whole friendship group didn't like me, that my mum didn't love me. I ended up staying in a single bed in shared accommodation. When I got a king size bed at home, wasn't allowed home. It got really, really abusive. So I moved to Spain to get away from him. And then...
Just a quick one, because people hear like, oh, I moved to Spain, I went to Dubai. Like that micro story of how you're able to do that. Are you able to maybe in a sentence or two just explain to people how you're able to find certain types of outlets like that Spain?
So basically, we've got a family apartment in Spain that we've had for years. So I used that to escape. So I went out there, got myself a job. And then like an idiot, I started I got back with him, so he flew over to see me. He stayed with me for a couple of weeks, and then unfortunately I got hit in the face by him, dragged across the floor, left for dead. He fractured my eye socket.
And how old were you?
I think I was 19. I didn't know what else to do but ring my mum, so my mum came to Spain to save my life. I was on a drip for 3 days in Spain, because obviously my mum's a nurse. She didn't know if I could fly or not, so when I got confirmed that I was allowed to fly, I came back to England, had an operation on my eye on Friday the 13th.
Oh wow, okay.
I know all these stories, I'm just like, it's just mad. People, I tell people, I'm like, is this really happened? I'm like, this is serious. And I got with him because I thought he's older, he can tell he really likes me, but because I think I never had that connection with my dad as much, I didn't realise what real love was. So I got sort of, well, I did get manipulated. When I first met him, I went missing. I was probably drinking for 4 days straight in some dodgy houses, like ruining my life with people with no ambitions. And it's awful to look back at that because that was a really bad time of my life. But that story's still following me now because even though it was a couple of years ago, I've still got to have another operation on my eye because my vision's still not clear. I can't look up properly. So that affected me through my modelling career. I lost myself because I didn't know how to be loved, I didn't know how to love, and it's been a real struggle for me. I didn't do my modelling, and that was the career I saw myself doing at the time. I lost all ambition with myself. It took me years and years to build that up, and I was back and forth in different jobs like yourself.
It's like not just one experience, but I think the biggest thing in terms of, I think we might end up just having a domestic abuse kind of content, like series, but fundamentally there's one thing about those types of relationships, they don't just end. Like there's catastrophic things down the line, unintended consequences, health issues, and that is a massive conversation that I think is also missed, that everybody's like, get out, but even when you're out of it, there's still other things that are. And
I believe if he didn't hit me when I was in Spain and he didn't leave the country, I might still be in that boat. It's because he left me to die basically, because he was worried that he was going to get arrested. So
let's then link that back with the parenting thing, because this is a deep conversation, and it's very much like something that occurred before you were born has consequences like 19 years on, 24 years on. What would you say, because there's a lot of debate and arguments around single parenthood, and there's a lot of organizations that say that, you know, they help families and they support families. What would you guys say people need to pay attention to when it comes to the absent father in the home? Like, what should organizations be doing? And maybe even how should the next generation of parents be thinking about that family home? Like, is it, I'll leave it open for now, but what should people be paying attention to? Like when it comes to girls growing up in a single family home?
I feel like they somehow need to intertwine the dad more into the life. And my dad was there for me, I'm not gonna lie on that. He taught me how to ride a bike and do things when my mum was absent because she was at work. But I feel like emotionally, that's where I think was lacking both stories there. Like I would speak to my dad, but we're not speaking about anything. We're just speaking about what we're doing. We're not speaking about, you know, why he is the way he is and why I am the way I am, to then overcome this perception I had on him. And I did reach out to him probably a year ago because I didn't speak to him for a couple of years, and we have actually built that bond back together, because I thought if anything was to happen to you or to me and I didn't solve this problem, that would then create a whole nother problem. So
if dads are around, I suppose if we're going to do a top 3 list, if dads are around, we need to make sure dads know how to be emotionally available. What else would you say we need to be thinking about for a dad that's around? Like, what do men and dads need to be thinking about when it comes to raising daughters?
Maybe accept what they have or haven't done, maybe when we've been alive or when before.
Okay, so
because it's whole like, yeah, I didn't do that, but you did. Okay. So just own it and then, you know, so move forward.
They also need to be accountable to the backstory.
Yeah, also, definitely.
Don't see the mum. Don't see if they are separated, but he's still in life. Don't see the mum through the kid. Don't put your hate through the child because of the mum.
Yeah.
So it's because I look quite a bit like my mum, I think, and I speak a lot like my mum. I have an accent sometimes, and he sometimes hears me speak Portuguese. He sees me through her, and he hates her, like despises her, can't stand her. Don't know why, just does. It's like don't see your child through the mother. But just also try and understand girl problems as well. You know, like as you're a man, obviously you're not going to know. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of look it up, understand it a bit. Yeah.
How curious should a parent be about that area? Like, if you're a dad, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's a comfortable zone? Like, what's a sensible zone?
Well, I guess when I was in Dubai, I said to I was struggling to tell my dad I was on my period. Like, it was like, he doesn't need to know that. Like he doesn't even know when I went on. Like, he's like, he wasn't around. He doesn't. I don't know, and especially as I'm not that close with my stepmom, can't really speak to her about it either. And it's just like, no, just ask if your kid is okay. Like ask if your daughter's okay. Ask if they need any help with anything, like emotionally, or like just have conversations. The same, I guess, maybe a little bit less like the mum would. Like my mum is amazing. She's been there for me since day one. She literally gave her life for me. Literally would drop everything just for me. And thanks to her, I learned how to have self-help, learn self-help, go to church, be close to God, and I've become a completely different person. I'm happy with myself. I don't need anyone to be happy. You know, I've got friends now, all because of her. Like, she helped me through so much. And if the dad can just do that, but also from the side kind of thing, help, just be there emotionally. Don't be emotionally draining, be there emotionally helpful kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's quite powerful. And so if, like I say, there'll be organizations that say, they help girls and they help empower girls. Here you're talking about the role of, like you say, the role of dads and the backstories of dads, and, if they're around, what they can do a bit more. In that guidance, the way I'm hearing it more is that we actually maybe, if we're thinking about engaging, and again, if somebody says they want to get you on a youth leadership program and somebody else says they want to get you on an employment program, right? As you guys have said, you may not engage because there's other things going on in your minds and in your lives. However, if somebody's then looking at listening to you and then saying, well, if we want them in a program, we need to be empathetic to their backstory. If there were sort of programs that they were saying, well, actually, maybe there's going to be some form of guidance and mentorship on building your confidence, but it doesn't just say confidence building. But if that advert or whatever said something along the lines of we understand what it's like growing up, with maybe we understand growing up with the wrong type of love or values, but on our journey to fix it, we can do this, and this for you. If there was that little hook that says, I know a bit about where you've been before we offer a thing, how would you guys respond to content and adverts?
I think it would be good, because it's all good and well saying you're going to do something, but,
do you understand where we've been?
Yeah. And if you can say that and use that as a promotion, I think people who are going through that might be like, okay, well, I think that they might understand a bit more. It's not just, your NHS therapy or your school therapy that's not got you anywhere. It's actually real people that have been through the same things and know how to deal with it.
We need to build, if it was something, then they need to be mentored through someone who's been it as well. Otherwise, there's no point having someone teach you to be okay if they haven't been through it themselves. They don't know how to deal with it. You can learn it and understand it from different people's point of views, but it's not the same.
Do we need to be explicit to say, here's mentorship for daddyless daughters? Because I've actually seen someone with that brand somewhere.
Daddy issues.
No, what?
Daddy issues.
They call it, daddyless mentors or daddyless daughters. Does it need to be that blatant?
That's a bit hard.
I don't know. I think that's a bit much.
Cool. Yeah.
I feel I don't think I would, I don't know.
And I also feel like it puts like the mum down as well a bit.
Okay.
Like, you know, like the mum was there. She was like a big like.
So what's the right phrase? Because this is.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, we want to get practical.
Maybe focus it more on the mums to say how amazing they are and how they've built, you know, well, my mum's built me as a woman today and how strong she's been for me and how strong I've been for her.
Yeah, build on the strengths.
Build on the strengths, and then obviously everyone can then talk about, you know, the absence of their dad.
It's not talked about enough as well.
Yeah,
like,
it's not.
Even though it's like quite minor compared to other things, it's still a big thing, and it's not talked about enough at all.
Do you think it's stigma related? Meaning, there's, at least me growing up, there's been a strong campaign for, as you said, let's not focus on what's missing, but let's not also make mums, or even if it's a dad that's on, let's not make a single parent feel guilty for
like
being a single parent.
enough.
But it sounds like maybe we've gone too far a certain way where we're not talking about the piece that's still missing still has an impact. So whilst we're not talking about it, we've then ended up not talking about other important things. Go on.
The missing puzzle piece.
Okay.
That's like a good name for it.
Okay. you just invented your own
Maybe
program.
things where you can bring the daughter and the mother along.
Yeah.
Interesting. Keep going.
Because you know how I did that podcast with Paris?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about therapy for myself because Paris is an amazing woman. So I'm thinking someone like Paris doing a workshop. I know this is going far.
Go for it.
Doing a workshop because she's a mother herself and she has had experience and she's a really good person to talk to. But maybe to bring, it could be a workshop, it could be one-to-one, mother and daughters, because then personally, me and my mum have never really had the conversation. And because she's always at work all the time and her time was mainly work, but she was building up an empire for me and her, to actually have a house, to have, you know, go on holiday and do nice things together. But I feel like in the times that I needed her the most, she wasn't there. And these things haven't been talked about.
Thing is, my mum doesn't know how to deal with it. Like, she doesn't know how to deal with me, like, growing up kind of thing, because it's always just, like, been me and her. She can't understand that I'm, like, older now. I can, like, look after myself more. And it's just the fact, like, because she can't share her problems with anyone else. She doesn't want to share her problems with me because, like, I'm her, like, little baby kind of thing.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the man. She doesn't have, like, the help. She's been financially supporting us basically our whole life. You know, private school, she, like, paid for herself just through her, like, job in herself. While my dad could be paying. So it's just like, because it's just me and her, we argue like absolute cats and dogs, and it doesn't help that we're both Latinas, but it's like, and you know, because my dad's not there.
Do you argue in English or Portuguese?
Bit of both.
Both, okay.
But like it gets so, like, imagine like we speak like, Bella, would you expect this on the this? And then we can't think of
Microwave.
words. It's just like, it's bad. And like my dad isn't there to like help with the arguments. And she can't, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean. And my mum saw her mum and dad go through a divorce, so her mum was a single mum in the end as well. I feel like it's like a generation thing. Like the pain gets passed on, and if you don't deal with it,
because you can't learn from it either.
And I feel like my mum was angry about things in her life, and obviously she had a really high job, and she was dealing with, you know, everything to do with that. And as a woman in high up, you're surrounded by men, so she was dealing with these like really serious matters all the time, and bringing that home. I didn't feel like I could speak to her, but she's carrying a lot of stress, and she's waking up every day and working so hard, and that's where I get my fight from. But I feel like I'm happy to speak about things now, because I don't want to then pass it on down the generation of things that haven't been sorted for the last 2 generations.
There's so many ways that we can go, but let me just try and keep it kind of concise. So on one hand, just for like that summary, if we're looking at interventions, thinking about how to support, you know, girls that are maybe, like you were saying, some of that needing a sense of safety, sense of being cared about, etc. You're going and finding that in the wrong hands and the wrong type of people. Like, you know, they say hurt people. So, and I think it would be really interesting to get your guys' perspectives on even some of the partners you've had and what their inadequacies were. So, you know, we'll park that to one side. But fundamentally, we're going out looking for an answer in the wrong places from some of the wrong people. You're saying that we can fix some of that in the home earlier on. And we're saying that if a dad's around, here's some of the responsibilities that he can take. Be more emotionally present, be open to talking to us about things, understand that we're growing, and as we're growing, our bodies are changing, but don't let that stop engagement. And just try and see us as who you've created, not my mum, not whoever, right? So in that part of that journey of whatever we're creating, you're saying that if we're going to do good quality interventions, we need to think about that. And if we're going to do good quality interventions, we need to respect some of all of your backstory, because whilst everybody's talking about mental health now, nobody's talking about some of these hidden issues. And now I want to know, is it just you, or to when it comes to you and your friends and your peers, how much do you think what you guys have articulated today is happening? Because some people might be like, oh, these are just these, but it's not like that out there in the streets. What would you say? I mean, how many of your friends would you say maybe have a similar backstory?
Yeah.
A lot of them.
I would say basically all of them. Look, so basically, I have a really, really strong girl gang. So there's about 10 of us, but we've been friends for 10 years plus, all in different ways. And we've come together and we've been best friends since, I think it's over 10 years now. I believe that every single one of them that I can think of, every single one of them has had similar backgrounds to me in terms of parenting. So the dad's not been there and it's just been the mom. And we've all, you know how I was telling you how I was with someone and I was disappearing for days, drinking for like 4 days. We were all together, so we were all doing the same thing because we didn't have any purpose in life. We didn't know what we was going to do. We didn't know how to even do anything because we didn't know any different. So luckily we've all came out the rabbit hole and we've all worked together and we're all doing really well in our careers now. But like I said earlier, this all could have been avoided and we could have done this a long time ago, but now we're all trying to put everything into our careers, and some of my friends are going back into education because they haven't got the GCSEs or they need to take a step up in... And
that's massive, because what you're really saying is that we need to think about education as lifelong, meaning if I dip between 19 and 24, I'm ready to be caught again 25 to 30, but you need to make some of those courses and opportunities available that I may go wrong for a bit, but don't, because really after 24, everything's most things shut. I always say to young people that, guys, this is what it's like when you're 10, and as soon as you start getting older, all you hear is, oh, you can't do this 16, 17, 18, 19, 16 to 24,
and then you've got to pay for it.
Yeah, because I literally the other day I was looking for me to do A-levels because I don't have them and there was nowhere. Yeah,
after about 20, you've got to either figure out a way to pay for it. Not only the tuition and things like that, because I've had to help some people, especially if also, you know, in this case it may not be relevant, but we've had people that were immigrant experienced, as it were. So they got their stay in the UK, but now they're out of that normal teenage age, or they're 20, turning 21. So certain things just start to lock off, like slowly kind of thing. So that's one part to say, let's think about lifelong learning. So you said this is all avoidable. This is all avoidable. What were you thinking?
So as I said before, it's like a big circle, right? If you see what happened to your parents, there's no dad in the home, you have no mental help, you're going to go after the wrong kind of first love relationship kind of thing. You're going to like let yourself be abused, be you know, so attached, and then you end up having a kid. You're going to break up with that person because they're not the right person, because you don't know how to find the right person because you never had that mental help. And then that kid's going to also grow up without a dad. Same thing might happen to it, and it's just going to be on and on and on because that they never stop and help. And then let's say the mother is trying to be a good mum, but she's also trying to get back into work. But she's on her own, she's trying to have her own, only her income, and she has to pay for like college or whatever kind of studies because she left school because of like what happened to me. Let's say she didn't do her GCSEs, and it's just going to go on and on and on if there is not any like stop point help. Like before anything happens, like hopefully it will stop now with me because I've gotten help. I know what I want. I know what I need in life. Luckily, I was healthy enough to do self-help because no one else would help me. There was like no, gave up on GPs, everything. But the thing is, if they don't get help, it's just gonna, like I said, on and on and on throughout generations, and it's people gonna end up like, you know, unfortunately offing themselves.
How much of the help do you think is relative to your level of education? Not just formal education, but how useful is it that you're exposed to enough things that will, you know, nudge you so that you don't accidentally sustain the cycle? Like how much of what you guys are describing, which is I saw the light, I saw a better way, I reflected, like
what if they don't see that
and or how are you able to see it, and do you think people have the same resources to be able to see that earlier?
I don't think people know where to find help, but I found help in other ways and believed in the people that I love and trust to help me through it, and believed in life. That's I haven't seeked out for therapy since school or whatever. I've sought therapy through believing in the process, which has gave me strength within itself. I believe that everything that's happening in my journey is supposed to happen, and I'm deeply taking everything in, figuring it out, letting it sink into my brain, and trusting the process. I know it might sound mad.
Yeah, so you found a way to deal with it because you've got a narrative in your head that says, you know, and it sounds like you're a person that values serendipity and like you value appreciating the journey, even if the journey is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what's your take on, like, how did you see things? Or
my friends, I'd say, like, you know, I've met so many amazing friends like Beth. I met my other friend Alex, his sister Katie, and there's just like a group of us, and it's like that's helped me a lot. But if you've like cut off everyone else, like I was alone for like a long time, you feel very vulnerable and you don't know what to do about it, and it's just you kind of like lose the will kind of thing. But for me, how I did it, luckily, I grew up going to church. So for me, my way of getting out of it was going to church, believing in God, everything, like God sees all kind of thing. He's next to me, he's by my side, blah, blah. Oh, but some people don't want to see that. They don't want to take that route. So for them, I generally don't know what they do. It's like, it's so bad. Like if I was in their position, I don't know what I'd do.
It's interesting. So you're saying spirituality helped you, faith helped you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to link this up, but arguably, would you say your experience, working class background, would you say, even though, like, how do you see yourself? Do you ever think about?
I don't think about it. I am who I am.
Yeah, yourself?
What do you mean?
Like, do you, like working class background, middle class, upper class, do you ever think or reflect on?
I think I'm like lower class, kind of middle class, but I think one day I will get higher class.
No
I will get it.
So I'm gonna join those dots, but that's funny. You're like, I'm lower middle. You know what I mean? Like
some days there's not enough money for milk. Other days it's like I've won the lottery and like I go out drinking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other days I'm in aisle 7.
But you know what? Thinking about it, only thing, times changed recently, about in the last like 50 years. So our parents really were living slightly in poverty anyway, and that was just normal.
But the thing is, they saw the little things in everything. Like my mum said, I didn't have much, but you know, just like the little things made me so happy. Kids nowadays, they're not even happy.
Spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I'm joining those dots is that there'll be people that will be hearing the stories and be like, but I can't go Spain. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I asked some of the questions, because on understanding, you guys kind of had some micro outlets, meaning some of your
had a place to go.
Some of the backstories, whether it's family, friends, coincidences.
But I never would have been able to go to the places I went without my mum's job.
So that's what I'm going to say, that in some cases, you seeing the light and getting things earlier is arguably because you had certain reference points, and you probably had a mum that's a professional. So even if things weren't going right, there were probably certain values, activities, actions that maybe even subliminally you were taking in. And likewise, if you're saying, you know, your dad's a pilot, both parents are professionals of sorts, and even though things didn't go right,
we had money off the tickets.
But that's my point. So some people will hear all of that and say, but you still got an outlet. Really, arguably, some people will be like, you know, you guys had more protective factors, but it's clear to see that actually anyone can end up in any position. And the journey getting out of it or seeing the light sounds like it's proportional to your exposure. Meaning if you've got like spirituality, so you must have read certain things and you've got faith, but if some people don't even get that, they've got to then find another way out. And I think that's leading me on to building that case to then say, how intense should an intervention be, bearing in mind we live in a world where people say you can't interview in someone's family. So people say stuff like, no one can tell my kids what to do, no one can, right? But at the same time, you guys are saying, but in some households, they're not getting it right. So how intense, intrusive, how bossy can the state or a government or any intervention be if we have this attitude of whatever happens behind closed doors is on them? We've got to respect parents to make all the right decisions. But at the same time, you guys are like, you know, there's a couple of bad decisions that I can't, right? So what is your take on how intrusive, how assertive, how intense the help needs to be, and what can you do if some people aren't engaging?
I feel like you need to get to them before you start doing anything intensely. So whether or not you're doing fun activities or events for people to get them familiar with what you're doing, and to gain the trust, because people don't have trust, especially if you're from a background that, you know,
it's just
doesn't like the system.
Outside,
yeah, so I've had friends that families are like that, and they either go one way or the other. But I feel like, same with me, I could have gone one way or the other. I was going the really, really wrong way, but then I had a sign to do something different with my life, and I've started trusting that, and that's what I did.
So you're saying whatever we do, even if you want to go do something intense with a family or any community, build the trust first.
Definitely.
Because otherwise...
Same with me. With the, say, therapists and anger management people that I had when I was younger, there was no trust there. I'm not going to tell you why I'm actually really angry, because what are you going to do? I don't trust you, don't know you, I don't know what you're going to do with this information, so why would I even tell you? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially a younger person.
Makes
you
sense.
think the whole world, well, I did, I felt the whole world was against me.
And once the trust is there, we can almost then go a bit further, because at least you know that someone's got your interest at heart. What do you think it takes to get intense? And
well, I think first of all, don't aim for like the parents, the family, aim for like the youngest child or whatever, because their brain is still forming, but what the thing is, they take in from what their parents and their family do. So if you can like prevent it, instead of like prevent the child from being like a horrible, nasty, racist person, you know, just be like, get to them, obviously like to an age where they can understand.
How do you get into a family to get to the youngest? So, you know what I mean? If you think about the way the world works.
Spot them out first, I guess.
And I'm not saying that you have to be the expert. I'm asking it because you know, this is what people are going to be struggling with. So I know what you're saying. You're saying fundamentally that the younger the mind, the easier the intervention, right? But and that's where I'm asking my question, which is, we live in a country that fundamentally, like I said, I see it all the time on Facebook and stuff, which is, no one can talk to my kids that way. You can't do it. So that's more or less someone saying, I'm gatekeeping my family. But you guys are also saying, guys, even in some of our families, they're not getting it right. They do need external help. So you said trust might work, but what else do you think might work in some of the families that, you know what I mean, whether it's a single parent that's defensive, just sick and tired of the system, always kind of being put through shit and and then maybe compared to somebody else that maybe they want the help, but actually some of the quality of the professionals weren't always there.
Get someone more understanding, I say. Get someone who's not so thick-skulled, and they just can like understand why they're like that, how they became that, and someone who can be not similar, but someone relatable. Kind of like
so the quality of the intervention matters. So trust, quality of the intervention.
And then like maybe become like the friend in a way, and then slowly get through to them and be like, you don't need to like, listen to what other people have to say.
Do you think we need to be thinking about this when people are having a child? So you know how right now there's meant to be like, this is me just thinking as we speak, there's meant to be like a nurse that you get when you're pregnant, but no one actually thinks about the guy, in that. And should this
be a lot on the guy as well?
Yeah, should this be a thing where, as you said, not only should you be checking in for this is where I've got no idea about
that's
kids,
actually
but
really
I don't
good.
know if they call it obstetrics. I don't know if they call it maternal, but there's meant to be checkups, right? So let's just say those legal checkups. We're checking up on the mum. Could we also be doing social welfare stuff and then also thinking about the parent in there?
Yeah, 1,000%. I've never thought of it like that. I don't think anyone has.
You guys invented it, so it's more of a case of listening to your experience.
That's really good.
But how do we make that a good experience rather than people thinking they only want to talk to me because they think I'm broken? How do you take the stigma out of that type of intervention? Like, how do we start to think about getting dads ready for parenting without it looking like we're saying you're going to be a shite father, so let's get in there now?
I think you need to speak to them, see how they're feeling, and then come up with something, and then like, speak to them like a normal person, because I feel like when you go into those situations, it gets a bit like, especially if you're a man. What's the word?
Masculine.
Patronising.
Okay.
That I can imagine.
Yeah.
So they might feel a bit uncomfortable in that situation because it's a whole new thing. So if there's someone just to talk to, and then maybe offer like...
Yeah, or just be like, we're here for you if you need anything.
And maybe offer, how like mums have little mothers meetings and stuff. They could do it for the dad before and after, and they can meet dads who are new dads.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff that we want to say. I think we've got to wrap some of this up, but I'm taking everything in, and the biggest things I think I'm hearing is men need to consider and think about how they're relating to their daughters. And you make it sound easy, but you're basically saying we have to be spoken with, we have to be engaged with, you have to be emotionally available and such. We've definitely said that whatever mental health support everybody's offering in schools or whatever, please pay attention to my backstory. Please pay attention to all the other things that have occurred before I got into this school. And it sounds, again, we didn't really pick up on it, but why am I being picked up after I've kicked off as opposed to kind of earlier? So thinking about that, and then thinking about organizations, if they're looking at engaging you, working with you, it's got to be human first, build the trust. You just can't be coming in trying to fix something. How you promote to us matters. Like, think about the quality of that promotion, make it relatable, make your practitioners relatable and things like that. But also I think, listening to you, there's room to keep listening to you and then design things against kind of your experience. And you're saying it's not just you, but there are other girls experiencing exactly the same thing. And if we can nip this in the bud, we can actually address a lot of unhealthy coping kind of going out. Any kind of parting messages, things that you want to...
I just think that was a really good conversation. At this point in my life as well, I'm going through a shift. So even just to speak about that now, it's given me strength and like power to actually keep pushing. So I'm grateful for this conversation. And to hear your story as well. It's quite relatable, and I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. And you are too.
Oh, stop it. Because I love hearing people's stories, because that's why I want to actually be a presenter, because I've got a lot to tell. And from going out and meeting people, I've learned a lot about humans and different people's backgrounds and all these wild stories, and that's why I want to do documentaries, and I've figured it all out.
And I think, again, obviously you guys are in the Lyfeproof brand, and I think that's what our philosophy is. It's not perfect, but we think just give people enough experiences until you find out who you are.
Yeah,
we just don't know. I call it the Harry Potter sorting hat. I don't know which one you're gonna be in. Slytherin. I don't really know Harry Potter, but there you go. Slytherin, Hufflepuff. What is it?
Hufflepuff.
Thank you, Hufflepuff.
Ravenclaw.
But the point is, you got to test everything, and the longer you can. And there's a phrase that says 20s are for learning, 30s are for earning. Everybody's thinking that they got to be balling by 19. You just got to keep tasting.
I was balling at 19. Look at me now.
Game on. All right, cool. So yeah, thanks very much for another really deep, heartfelt episode on the Leading Communities podcast. And look out for more. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to keep up to date with all things Leading Communities. You can follow Aspire For You at A4UCIC. To follow That's All Media, search at That's All Media. You can also join us on Facebook at Leading Communities Podcast.